Justice on trial. In the hushed federal courtroom in Huntsville, Alabama, Judge Samuel Wright adjusted his robes, his face a mask of calm authority. The packed gallery held its breath as two police officers, Daniel Harper and Michael Lawson, entered, their faces draining of color when they saw him. Just yesterday, they had arrested him at a rest stop, unaware of his identity. Now, they stood before him, charged with assault, false imprisonment, and civil rights violations. "How do you plead?" Judge Wright asked, his voice steady but resonant. The room seemed to tighten with anticipation, knowing this was no ordinary case. It was a reckoning. Samuel Wright, 58, was no stranger to Alabama's judicial system. A federal judge for 25 years, he was a towering figure in Atlanta's legal circles, known for his fairness and unyielding commitment to justice. Raised in rural Georgia by a librarian mother and a Baptist minister father, he'd worked his way through Morehouse College and Harvard Law, rejecting lucrative corporate offers to serve as a public defender. His career was marked by landmark rulings dismantling discriminatory housing policies and curbing police misconduct. The Atlanta Tribune had dubbed him the moral compass of the bench. A widower since his wife, Clara, succumbed to cancer 5 years earlier, he found purpose in his work and his two children, Rachel, 32, a civil rights lawyer, and Nathan, 29, a neurosurgeon. This spring, Wright chaired the Federal Task Force on Systemic Bias, a high-profile initiative tackling racial disparities in sentencing, bail, and jury selection. After 18 months of grueling work, the task force had crafted bold reforms, mandatory bias training, community oversight boards, and an overhaul of sentencing guidelines. Wright was driving from Atlanta to Montgomery to present these findings to Alabama's governor, a meeting that could reshape the state's justice system. He chose to drive, believing a face-to-face delivery carried weight that a flight or deputy could not. 3 hours into his journey, fatigue set in. Spotting a sign for the Pine Hollow Rest area on Highway 65, he pulled into the quiet lot, seeking coffee and a moment to stretch. The rest area was unremarkable vending machines, a picnic area, and a few scattered cars under the late afternoon sun. Wright locked his sleek black Cadillac and headed for the coffee machine, unaware that this mundane stop would ignite a firestorm. As he fed quarters into the machine, flashing lights reflected in the glass. 2 patrol cars rolled in, parking to block his Cadillac. Officers Harper and Lawson approached, their strides purposeful. Harper, a broad-shouldered man with a crew cut, rested his hand on his holster. "Evening," he said, his tone clipped. "Mind telling us what you're doing here?" Wright, seasoned by decades in court, kept his composure. "Just grabbing coffee, officer. I'm headed to Montgomery for a meeting." Lawson, wiry and sharp-eyed, circled to his left, a tactic Wright recognized as containment. "ID," Harper demanded. Wright handed over his driver's license and federal judicial ID, moving deliberately. "I'm a federal judge, officers. May I ask what this is about?" Harper's eyes narrowed, and Lawson smirked. "A judge, huh? We've had reports of drug trafficking through here. You fit the description." The claim was absurd. A suited middle-aged man at a vending machine, but Wright knew better than to argue. A small crowd, including a family and 2 truckers, began to gather, some recording on their phones. When Wright politely declined a vehicle search, citing no probable cause, Harper's face reddened. "Playing the race card already?" he snapped, grabbing Wright's arm and shoving him against the vending machine. Coffee spilled across the pavement as Lawson cuffed him tightly, ignoring his protests. "You're interfering with an investigation," Harper barked. Through the machine's glass, Wright saw Lawson open his car door and emerge with a bag of white powder. "Well, look at this," Lawson said, holding it aloft. "Our judge is carrying more than legal briefs." "That's not mine," Wright said firmly. "You planted it," a woman in the crowd shouted. "I saw him put it there. I got it on video." Harper waved off the onlookers, shouting, "Disperse, or you're next." Wright was shoved into the patrol car, his briefcase containing his presentation and credentials left behind. As they drove to the Limestone County Sheriff's Department, Harper and Lawson's conversation turned openly racist. "These city types think they're untouchable," Harper sneered. "Coming through our county in fancy cars, running drugs." At the Sheriff's Department, a squat, outdated building, Wright endured a humiliating booking process. Sergeant Ronald Baxter, a paunchy desk officer, scoffed at his judicial ID, tossing it into a bin. "Nice forgery," he muttered. Wright demanded his phone call, dialing his former clerk, Laura Bennett, a Birmingham civil rights attorney. "Laura, it's Samuel Wright. I've been falsely arrested in Limestone County. Officers Harper and Lawson planted evidence. I need help." Bennett's voice was steely. "I'm on my way. Don't say a word." 3 hours later, as Wright sat in a grimy holding cell with three other MENA young drunk, an elderly homeless man, and a bruised Hispanic man, Bennett arrived. Captain George Ramsey, the shift supervisor, offered a nervous apology, having verified Wright's identity. "A misunderstanding," he called it. Bennett's eyes flashed. "We'll need all records, body cam footage, and officer names." This was no misunderstanding, was racial profiling and evidence tampering. As they left, news vans swarmed the station, and Wright's phone buzzed with messages from his children, colleagues, and the governor's office. In a Montgomery hotel, Bennett transformed her suite into a legal war room. Her team uncovered a pattern. Harper and Lawson had targeted black men at Pine Hollow for years, planting drugs in at least 7 cases. Wright, reviewing body cam footage, watched himself remain dignified as Harper muttered, "Another one who doesn't know his place." The footage of Lawson planting drugs was damning. By midnight, the story was national news, sparking outrage online. The next morning, Wright, in a fresh suit, presented his task force's reforms to Governor Charles Thornton. He wove his arrest into the presentation, making abstract statistics visceral. "Yesterday, I was handcuffed and framed because of my skin color," he said. "This is why reform is urgent." Thornton, shaken, pledged a task force to implement the recommendations. Back at the hotel, Bennett revealed that Harper and Lawson faced an emergency hearing the next day at the county courthouse, presided over by a pro-police judge. Wright made a bold decision. "I'll take the bench myself." As a federal judge, Wright could supersede the county court in civil rights cases. The chief judge of the 11th Circuit approved, citing public interest. The Huntsville Federal Courthouse was a media circus by morning, with protesters and reporters crowding the steps. At 10 a.m., Wright took the bench, his presence commanding silence. Harper and Lawson, in dress uniforms, looked stunned. "I recognize the unusual nature of my role here," Wright said, "but I will ensure absolute impartiality." The prosecution, led by DOJ attorney Karen Liu, presented body cam footage and witness testimonies. Lawson, under pressure, took the stand, admitting to a department program called Southern Hospitality, targeting black drivers in nice cars. "We kept drugs in our patrol car for probable cause," he confessed, implicating superiors, including Sheriff Ronald Baxter. The courtroom gasped. Harper, defiant, later pleaded no contest, admitting the program came from Baxter himself. Wright issued a preliminary ruling. Harper received 5 years probation, a revoked certification, and 2,000 hours of community service. Lawson got 3 years probation and 1,000 hours. He froze all Limestone County cases tied to the scheme and ordered a DOJ review. "This is not just about 2 officers," he said. "It's a system that betrayed its purpose. A badge is not a shield, but a trust." 6 months later, Wright addressed Limestone County's first reformed police academy class. Baxter and senior officers had been prosecuted, and dozens of wrongful convictions were overturned. The state passed the Wright Judicial Reform Act, and federal laws strengthened police accountability. The Pine Hollow rest area now had cameras and a misconduct hotline. Wright, still haunted by nightmares, felt cautious hope. "Justice lives in daily decisions," he told the graduates. "You are its embodiment." That evening, driving past Pine Hollow, Wright reflected on his journey. A coffee stop had sparked a movement. The system had failed him, but in its failure, he'd found purpose. Justice wasn't perfect, but it was bending because he and others had pushed. What would you do if injustice struck you or someone you love? Would you fight for yourself or systemic change? Share your thoughts below, especially on confronting violence and unfairness in our world. Your voice matters. Take a stand and inspire others.